Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about some pneumatic tools. So pneumatic, which starts with a P, is the process of powering something by compressed air. There are all kinds of pneumatic tools. Oftentimes they're thought of for fasteners, nail guns, staple guns, things of that nature. But almost all of your mechanic tools that you see in NASCAR or you see in a garage are pneumatic. That's why they are so loud. They make pneumatic cars. Almost any tool could be pneumatic. So first I wanted to demonstrate how to attach a pneumatic device. All right, so this is your hose, right? So this is already pressurized with air inside of it. It's connected to, in the shop, of the wall or to an air compressor. So there's a sleeve right here, which allows a series of ball bearings that are inside of it to relax and go back into the housing. And those ball bearings grab onto this groove of your pneumatic tool. So you pull back the sleeve. I like to hold the hose in these three fingers, which leaves my pincher fingers to be able to pull this back. So you pull back the coupling, you stick it together, you push, and then you release the coupling. Right? This is a lot harder than it looks. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's really easy for me. So the first time you do it, it might be a little difficult. But you remember you want to push with these three fingers, right? You don't want to push with your pincers. Your pincers are just holding back the sleeve. So you stick it together, push, release the coupling. All right, now we have a pneumatic device. This is a brad nailer. I'm going to take off the air so I can show you exactly how this machine works. So brad nailer is kind of a generic term. This is an 18 gauge brad nailer. Gauge referring to the thickness of the wire that it is shooting. So this is a brad nail. This is an 18 gauge brad nail, relatively thin. They can be short up to ½ inch thick. This particular gun will shoot up to 1.5 inches long. You load them. Let me show you how you do that. So you slide open the magazine, you stick the brad nails in, and then you close. Now it is loaded. All of these boss stitch tools have a safety on them. So when you're pulling the trigger, you cannot fire until the safety right here has been depressed. It's not plugged in. So you depress it, and then you can pull the trigger all of the way. It will not fire unless that trigger has been pushed. All right, so now we are going to add air to it. And I'm just going to fire into this piece of 1x4 so that we can kind of see it function. All right, so you can see pulling the trigger doesn't fire. I'm going to put it onto this board, and it shoots through, and you can kind of see how it is punctured through the wood. Brads are great for small things. As it is a relatively small piece of metal, it doesn't hold a whole lot of weight. So it's perfect for decorative things, molding, putting jewelry boxes together, things that don't hold any significant structure. Decorative. So next we're going to move up to the narrow crown fastener, or a narrow crown staple gun. Again, narrow crown is kind of what we call it. It is a 7/32 crown staple gun. I believe also an 18 gauge, yes, 18 gauge, 7/32 crown. They don't really make one that's smaller, so everybody just calls it the narrow crown. This particular tool, there's a trigger here. You push the trigger, that allows it to open, and the staples sit inside of it. So this is a narrow crown staple. So that distance right there is 7/32, which is why it's called narrow. And this particular one, I think, is 1.25 inches long. To load it, you take the gun, you stick your staple in this orientation, so crown into the gun, stick it in there, close it, and now you're ready to shoot. Similar thing to the brad gun, it will not fire unless the safety has been pressed all the way. It's not plugged in, so you can then press the trigger. There are a couple of features on this side, which I can zoom in, so you can lock it so that it won't fire. And then there's this function, which is multiple fire or single fire. What that means, single fire means that when this is depressed, I can only fire once. So every time I want to fire, I have to press it. Multiple fire is once this is depressed, I can pull the trigger as many times as I want to. It's a function. You get to choose which one you like. One isn't really safer than the other. It's just preference. So we are going to attach our narrow crown staple gun back to our compressed air, and we're going to hold it on our piece of wood and fire. So you can see it coming through. See if I can get a video of it. Okay. Narrow crown is basically 2 brad nails at the same time with a little bit of space, right? So we're stepping up on how much weight, how much support this gives. So narrow crown staples are moderately structural, right? So narrow crown staples are great for flats, for walls, things that need to have some structure to, but things people aren't going to stand on top of, right? So it's good to hold pieces of wood together, but not great for something that people are going to jump on top of or really put a lot of pressure into. All right, we're going to step up one more level. This is a medium crown staple gun. Of course, they all have to work slightly different, even though they're all Bostitch. So the medium crown staple gun, you slide back this lever here, and you pull out the staples. So this is a medium crown staple. So you can see it's significantly wider, almost twice as wide as the narrow crown, but they're about the same length. And also, I believe they are the same gauge, and that's the 16 gauge. So it's a little bit thicker than the staple. So it's a little bit thicker, a little bit wider, a little bit stronger. So to load it, you take your medium crown staples, you slide it onto the bar here. There's a little button right here, and you push the button and it slides that forward, and now it is ready to fire the medium crown staples. Similar thing, it's got a safety where it cannot fire until the safety is depressed, and then you can fire it. So we're going to plug it in. We're going to grab our piece of wood. Now each of these also adds more kick, right? So where the brad nail really doesn't take a whole lot of effort to fire in a brad nail, the medium crown is considerably more effort. So we're going to put it on top of our board and fire away. So you can see these are our medium crown staples. Right? They're a little bit thicker than these guys. So we continue to go up on the strength, right? So medium crown is great for holding structure. Depending on how long you're using the right fastener, they can hold weight. You can build platforms with a medium crown staple that people can stand on top of. All right, so a quick rule of thumb for gauging how long a fastener you need. The starting point is half the thickness of your first piece of material. Your first material. That was kind of awkward sounding. So if I'm going to attach this piece of 1x4 to this piece of 2x4, the fastener is dictated by the length or the thickness of this first piece. Right? So this is 3/4 of an inch. So I want to use an 1.5-inch staple to attach this piece to this piece. That's not a hard and fast rule. It's just a good starting point. Sometimes you have to use a shorter piece. Sometimes you can use a longer fastener. It's just a good place to start off. 2 times the thickness of your first piece that you're nailing into. All right, so the last pneumatic tool that we're going to talk about today is actually stepping down in strength. So this is our upholstery stapler. Loads very similarly to the narrow crown staple gun. Right, so you pull this little trigger here, and this slides down, and the staples live inside of it. So these are upholstery staples. They're very thin, very fine. Find the camera and zoom out. Right, so it's kind of like they're a little bit smaller than a regular paper staple. And one of the things about the upholstery stapler is it does not have a safety. So once I have air in this, I pull the trigger, it shoots the staple. They don't have a whole lot of force. I mean, if you put it on your skin, it'll shoot you. But if you're shooting across a room, it's not going to hurt anybody. Perfect for stapling into fabrics for upholstering things, thus, upholstery stapler. Add it. I don't even know if this will go into wood. Cool. So you can see the little staples right there. Right, puts a cute little staple on there. Perfect for making soft covered flats, doing furniture, things of that nature. Very handy tool because it's so much faster to use this than a T50 stapler or a hand stapler where you're constantly cranking away at it. There are some other pneumatic tools. They're not as commonly used. We do have a framing nailer that shoots really big nails. We've got a wide crown stapler. We don't really use them too much. So for the sakes of this video, we're going to end it on those 4 pneumatic tools. Thanks, everybody.